Hello, everyone, and welcome back to They Don't Teach This in Law School. I'm your host, Charlie Mann of law firm Alchemy. And my guest today was introduced to me by a friend, Vance Morris. And in digging a little bit deeper about her online, she's got a company called Journey to Yourself. And I asked her ahead of time, what's the title? What do you do? Because I saw a lot of mindset, building habits, how to live a more holistic life by first focusing on yourself. And that's something that I do with the law firm owners that I work with. Is the journey to having a great enterprise begins with yourself and being a great entrepreneur. So when she said that she's a health educator who reduces your stress, I was like, perfect. Stress exists in the legal world. Stress exists in the entrepreneurial world, in the being a husband, wife, father, mother, a good son or daughter. So there's plenty of intersection of stress that we will get into today. So Jessica Harrington, I'm very excited to have you on the show.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to be on here. What a great introduction. I've done, like you said, I've done a lot of these and that was a fun one. So thank you.
Very good. So Jessica, I got to ask you the kickoff question. What is the one thing they don't teach you in law school?
So when you first asked me this in the beginning, my first thing that came to my head was like empathy. So like understanding others. And listen, I didn't go to law school, so I could be wrong. But my mindset is when I think about like the law and doctors and things like that, and like those high level education, I feel like they focus a lot on the education piece, but we take a lot away from the human piece. That we all are humans. We all have feelings. We're all going through things. Even as a lawyer too, right? Not just even with their clients, but even like you said in the beginning, yourself. How are they taking care of themselves? Like I know some girlfriends of mine that are lawyers and they're always on the go. They're always working on the next case. They're always doing something for others and for the case and for the firm, but not so much for themselves. So I feel like that's not taught.
Absolutely. I mean, self-care in general, but certainly self-empathy. And that's like a really interesting idea here because, and this is something I want to explore together, is looking over what you do with other individuals. A lot of it seems to come from, and I totally agree with you, the taking care of yourself in order to take care of others. So whenever I meet someone who is in that line of business, the question I always have to ask, Jessica, is what happened with you that brought you to that place?
Yeah, 100%. So my super nutshell story is I grew up in an addiction household. So I started my career in the addiction field. So I was working with men reduced their sentence from jail coming into the rehab. What I really noticed was that my clients and my coworkers were going through the same stressors. The only difference was when my coworkers went to the bar, it was fine. My clients weren't allowed to, right? So it was a different judgment on them that they weren't handling their stress correctly. And I'm going, but you were doing the same thing. So that's when I went back to school, got a master's in public health instead, because I wanted to be on the prevention side of things. I feel like there was that no education piece. And that's actually where I learned how to become an entrepreneur and create your own program.
Interesting. Okay, you used the word prevention in there. Talk to me more about that.
So my mindset around when it came to addiction, either in my upbringing, my household, or with the clients I was working with, my mindset was we're not taught the tools on how to handle stress, so we're only going to use what's in our environment. And if that's what's in our environment, it's easy accessible, that's what we're going to use, right? So we're just judged on how we use our addiction. So some people might dive themselves into work, some people might dive themselves into helping others, some people might dive themselves into drinking, but we're not really taught on the tools on how to handle these stressors.
You know, I recently had Tony Albrecht on the show, and Tony is someone who his story kind of kick-started when he woke up in a Guamanian jail cell after a night of drinking and not really having a drink at all after that, I think for the last 13 years, right? These powerful points of origin that happen with individuals. But you use a little, like, the environmental piece in there. There's a book by Benjamin Hardy, Willpower Doesn't Work, that focuses a lot on environmental engineering. So when you talk about the environment, is that something that you work with people on, and what does that look like?
Well, I like that question. So yeah, for sure, right? So, and it starts, I try to make it in the sense you talked about how I try to build habits and about yourself. So I try to make it very simple, right? I don't want you going and changing your whole household, getting rid of people in your life, or, scrubbing the house in a certain way. I want you to learn how to build those habits because life is always going to happen. So when it comes to your environment, I talk in the sense of have you ever worked in a restaurant? Have you ever worked in a clothing store? Things like that. And asking them in that sense of there's always a closing and an opening shift. So when I get off today, I clock out of here at 5:30, right? What am I doing to get my desk reorganized? I have a closing shift. When I clock in here this morning at 7, what was my opening shift? Is it going to be a busy day? So just taking care of that environment in very simple ways so that I can build on that. I don't want you to go through deep diving into your closet and deep diving into these things. I want you to start to build these habits so you can start to take them into different areas of your life.
So you have, let's say, and I'll be on the nose with it, you have a busy law firm owner who is dealing with, okay, I'm running this whole enterprise. I'm dealing with, for a lot of them, they are still involved in being a lawyer within the firm, so they haven't even shifted identity-wise fully over into strictly entrepreneur. So they're the owner operator of the business. In addition, there's the stress of them making money. There's the social pressure. There's the I'm supposed to be physically fit. I need to be present with my spouse and kids. All of that. That person shows up at your doorstep. What does the discussion look like at that point?
Yeah, of course. So I ask them what they feel their stress is in their life, right? So we have that kind of conversation about what they feel their stressor is, because you could just tell me that story and I could say, okay, well, it's balance, it's, identity, it's that, right? But if they don't see that, we're not going to get anywhere. So I want to ask them, where do they feel their stress is coming from? They might be like, oh, well, my wife has a lot of pressure on me because I'm never home because I'm trying to build this business, but I'm trying to build this business so she doesn't have to work, so she can be a stay-at-home, right? And we go down that rabbit hole, right? So then my focus would be, one, how are you taking care of yourself so you can show up for your wife and your kids? So if they're talking about that they want to work out, then that's fine. I don't pressure the mindset of working out. I pressure the mindset of movement in the sense of, one, what's going to work for you? So just so you're not sitting at the desk all day. How are you getting outside and walking around, right? So I would love for people to go to the gym. I would love for things like that to happen. But there's so many other benefits to just moving and getting that in that mindset. But also, I don't want it to turn into addiction of now I'm just always going to work out, right? So, and then you fall into that, or you also fall into that mindset of I have to be healthy, so I have to work out, or I have to lose weight so my wife loves me. I have to look a certain way in my suit, so when I do go to my client, they look at me a certain way. So I don't want them doing it for other people. I want them doing it because they're looking at it as I want to be healthy, and I also see the benefit of when I leave my desk, take that walk around the office and I come back down, right? So that's that 10-minute piece or 5-minute piece of just getting up. So I try to figure it that way. And then they also realize, what are they thinking about on their walk? What are they feeling on their walk? And we kind of have those conversations when we come back, when I say, okay, you were supposed to go for a walk on Monday and Friday. What did you do the walk? Did you not do the walk? Did you like the walk? Was it annoying? You don't have to be like, yes, I'm so excited I had a walk, but let's talk about it. So it's establishing a habit that works for them, that's going to work on that stressor that they brought to me.
Habit that works for them. That's an important phrase in there. How do you help someone, though, who maybe hasn't built these habits previously, find one that will work for them and one that is sustainable?
Yeah, so it's figuring out what their schedule is, right? So like you just said, he's busy, he woke up, he had, got ready, then he had to go right to the business, then he's doing these meetings against the clients, and then he's trying to run the business, but he's also trying to be the lawyer. So it's, again, finding what's realistic in that schedule. So if it's only 1 to 5 minutes, then we're going to find something that's only 1 to 5 minutes. So if it's only me telling, okay, every time you get to your office, do you bring a glass of water? I'm not going to tell you to refill it. I'm not going to say this is how much you have to, drink a day, but is there a glass of water on your desk? So now that's our first habit we're going to build. And then a week later, we're going to add to that. Okay, well, did you bring a water and an apple? Again, I'm not going to force you to eat or drink, but I want you to start bringing these things to you so you're going to create that habit. So then I now know I always have water at my desk, right? So it's just kind of just creating those habits where it's not going out of your normal realm, because that's going to create frustration. That's going to create stress. And then you're not going to want to meet with me because you're like, well, these habits are stupid and I don't want to do them, right? So I got to find something that's realistic.
So if we're talking habits, inevitably when you talk to a person who talks habits, everyone's curious. What are your best habits that you keep?
Oh my goodness, yeah. So definitely drinking water, because I talk a lot. It's my woe me moment. I am a big talker. So when I first wake up in the morning, I'm always grabbing a glass of water. So I have a morning routine. I don't have to go through it with you, but I have my morning routine. But my biggest one I like to emphasize on people is that I have a night routine. It's really easy for us to start the morning going, I'm going to be great today. I'm going to be so awesome. I'm going to do the 30-minute workout. And then guess what? Life happens. Joe emails you and you're like, well, today sucked. Goodbye. I'm not doing my habits today. So I always emphasize, so going back to your lawyer person, what's his night routine? All right. So what does that look like? How am I settling down at night? Because we all have those thoughts when we lay down and your brain is on that, right? And you're going, did I get this done? Did I go to that client? So I want to help decrease that. I want you to sleep. I want you to have a routine going to sleep, right? So I help you with that. So that's something I do in practice is having my night routine. So my night routine is really big. Morning routine obviously is huge. And I don't eat at my desk. So when it's lunchtime, I don't eat at my desk. It's a hard one. I know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's easy, but I don't eat at my desk. Just mainly lunch. I'll have my snacks here and things like that. But lunch and breakfast and dinner, the main meals, they're not at the desk.
So why specifically not eating at the desk?
Because then I'm still working, right? I'm not actually enjoying that meal that I worked for, to pay for, to made time to make myself, and I didn't really enjoy it. I wasn't present with it. And that sounds so woo-woo. I hear that. But how many times did you eat like you were in jail and then you're like, okay, now I'm back on my computer, right? I just stepped away. And again, thinking about what the benefits are of 5 minutes. It's only 5 minutes. You're going to eat it fast because you want to get back to your emails anyway, right? So stepping away, think about what happens to your brain when you just stepped away from work. Maybe you're able to solve a problem because you're able to see a different point of view. Maybe you're like, oh, shoot, you know what? I didn't check in with my wife. It is our anniversary today. I should send that text message real quick, right? Think about what happens when you step away and then you come back. Maybe you didn't realize how you were sitting and you're like, oh my God, my back. Oh, man. Was my legs crossed like that the entire time? It's all those little things that we overlook.
I can feel, because I feel it myself right now, Jessica, is that I can feel everyone listening to this episode and kind of doing, and those who are not like watching the episode, you're kind of like moving a little straighter in your chair. You're like, yes, posture. That's a thing I'm supposed to pay attention to.
And it's so huge to paying attention, being tired. Like, we're all out of age. Your back hurts when we just get up out of bed sometimes. Like, well, let's just be honest on who we are and where we're at right now. But it takes place on where you're sitting too, you know? It's huge. It's huge.
Stretch your hamstrings, everyone. Stretch your hamstrings if you have back problems.
Toes. Let's do it.
That's part of my evening routine. My wife and even my kids will join in sometimes. We will stretch out in the evening. So happy to say no existing back issues at this point since we started doing that.
I love it.
Okay, so I noticed one of the things that you talk about on your site is as the person starts this journey to themselves, journey to yourself, that it helps them communicate better and it also helps them set better boundaries. And I think I want to zoom in on the boundaries idea because oftentimes when I introduce that to a client, it's very novel, very strange, and sometimes hard to understand. How do you help people, or first off, what do you see setting boundaries as?
Or like that. Okay. So when I'm talking about setting boundaries, it could be, again, this could be a million and one things, right? So when I'm setting boundaries, it's putting myself first. So what does that look like? What do I have to block to put myself first? So something so simple, right? Maybe the lawyers don't do it, but I know my clients do it. They tend to scroll through Instagram and TikTok and like whatever the case may be, right? So I have them download this app. It's free, so I'll make a shout out. It's OneSec. You download it, it's free, you connect it to whatever app or how many apps you need to put on it. And every time you sign on, it'll say, the last time you were on here was 3 hours ago. Your duration was this long ago. In the last 24 hours, you have been on, right? So it breaks it all down.
Interesting.
It's really great. So it's like, and then if you go on within, I think like 30 minutes of it, like you sign back on, because you get it out of habit, it'll say, Jess, you were just on here. You sure you want to come back? Right? Do you have nothing else to do? You know, it's one of those pokes, you know? But I'm setting boundaries. So maybe for that client, they are having FOMO. Maybe for that client, they're seeing their ex. Maybe for that client, they see another entrepreneur succeeding. So that's them setting boundaries. But in the sense when my mindset too is when I start to learn about myself, I start to learn what I need and want.
Yeah.
Because if I'm doing everything for everybody else or for my business or for my family or for whatever, I'm not doing things for me. And when I start to learn what I need and want, I'm able to create that. So I'm able to say, hey wife, I love working out. Hey wife, I love doing this hobby, or I love my business is really important, or I want to start a business. I'm able to figure that kind of stuff out, and I'm able to have a healthy conversation with them. Because when I'm not in that healthy mindset, I don't know what I need and want, I'm just that built up frustration or sadness. And I'm not taking that time to see what I really want and love in my life. So that's when I'm able to communicate. And when I'm able to communicate, that's when those boundaries kind of start to set in, because then I'm able to say, I want more of this and less of that. I think I lost you. I don't know, I can't hear you. And your face is frozen. What if I stay on? Let's see.
Jessica.
I'm here.
Yeah, my internet completely cut out.
Fine. I'm here.
So never encountered that before. So yay. So I will take care of stitching clips together on our side.
You're good.
Do you know roughly where you were in the discussion when it
We
cut
were
out?
talking about boundaries. I told you
Yeah.
about the 1 second app. And then
Yep.
we started talking about why is that important. So I can do that piece again. And I finished my sentence. I saw you froze, but I kept going because I saw that it was still recording. But I can do it in the sense of your conversation. Or what do you think?
No, so that means it should upload your side properly. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into another question, and we'll use that as our
Perfect.
going forward point.
You're good.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, literally never had that happen. So I appreciate you being easy to work with on this front. Perfect. All right,
No
let's see
stress.
here. All right. So we're talking setting boundaries. Okay. Okay, so if we're doing a better job of setting boundaries, the other part of it was being able to communicate more effectively, which I see as the other side of boundary setting, is telling people what your boundaries are. How do you help people who maybe are nervous about delivering that either to family members or team members handle that?
Yeah, of course. So again, going back to what I was saying in the beginning, was that we start small. So either it's the 1 second app, it's having the lunch by yourself, it's setting the night routine, saying, all right, I'm going to go do my night routine, or whatever that case may be. Maybe it's just washing my face, making my lunch, changing my clothes. But it's starting to set those and make those little strides, because it builds that confidence, right? So once I start to see that I'm doing this and I start to see the change and support that I'm getting, you're going to start to naturally have different conversations in general, right? If your wife starts to see that you're going to bed early and you're resting differently, she's going to notice. And you're going to have those kind of conversations, right? So it's building those confidence little by little on a daily basis within yourself, but also for others to see. It's kind of like that losing weight. I'm going to start to eat healthy, and I'll see the change first, right? And the pants goes, you're like, oh, that's working, right? But then other people are going to see you in that dress with those pants later going, yes, that worked. That's working. Tell me everything. So you're going to start to have those conversations regardless. So when that time comes when you're saying, I can't show up for X, Y, Z, you're going to be able to say it differently, right? Because you're already kind of built that relationship. So even say, I can't go to an event, right? So for as a woman, there's bridal showers, there's engagement parties, there's every kind of power word, right? There's always something. And so maybe I can't afford it, or maybe my bandwidth isn't enough. Maybe I have to do something with my own family. So I can just say, Susie, I'm not able to attend. If there's another way to support you, let me know. Right? And so now I'm having different conversations, but even to the entrepreneur side of things, I can't show up because I have a business event. And that's hard a lot of times, right? I have to do business things, and people are like, well, it's Sunday. As an entrepreneur, that doesn't matter, right? There's always something to do. So it's having those conversations, it's seeing that growth, but it's also going, how else can I support you? Is there something else we can do together? And then what I'm doing now, so again, even to that entrepreneur side, when I'm asking for support, what does that look like? Maybe that person can't go to all your events or can't get you clients, but they can share and like your post because that makes sense to them. Or maybe they can share your podcast episode, or like because you mentioned something about them in a good way, right? And so there's having
Yes.
it's finding ways that make sense for everybody to support each other too. And so doesn't have to be this ripped off the Band-Aid negative, event. And sometimes we build that story in our head. So when I'm building that confidence, we're also building that story down to reality and what's realistic. And if it does go sour, what kind of tools do I have? Because we've been building tools.
So that was going to be something I wanted to ask about.
Let's go.
We all love the building habits. The question always seems to come down to, how do I get this to stick?
Yeah.
So how can we make these habits last longer?
Building small habits at once. I tell people, if you want to run a marathon, you're not going to just sign up and go tomorrow. You have to buy the shoes, you have to stretch, you then have to walk, right? There's steps that are involved. When you build a business, you don't just become 6 figures overnight, even though they tell us, that's my 6-figure story. It's not real. It's not real, guys. It's a process, right? So it's those systems, it's processing, right? It's being aware that that's how those things go. But it's also being aware that there's a toolbox. It's not just a tool. And sometimes we get very hyper-focused that, well, I use this tool. Well, yeah, but there's still a hammer, there's still a wrench, there's still a screwdriver, you still have so many other tools, and we get hyper-focused that, well, I really like this tool, and it's worked for every other case. Cool, but you don't need a hammer right now, right? And so we get very hyper-focused. So it's build that toolbox, fill it, overstuff it. But you have to start small first. Start with the hammer, see what it does, what you like about it, what you don't like about it, then add the screwdriver. What do I like? What don't I like? Then we add, right? And so it's that process is important, and realizing there's more tools in that toolbox.
So as someone builds their toolbox, you kind of talked on social situations and, going out to events with friends and, business events, etc. But I've often found that there's an interesting point in which as someone builds their toolbox, they sometimes look around and go, a lot of people are enabling maybe the lesser side of me, or they're not growing their toolboxes as well. I think this is a really interesting point in self-development. When you have someone who looks around and says, I feel like I'm playing at a different level than other people now, and there's a fear of, am I going to let go of these business associates? Do I need new friendships possibly? You mentioned that you want people to be able to hold on to certain things, but I imagine that there is that level of conflict. So I've tossed a lot of ideas out here, this little amoebic form. I'm curious your processing of it.
Oh, no, this is really good because it's real, right? This is real. So as I build and I become more aware and I see what I like, I want, my confidence, everything, right? And I start to see that maybe a friend of mine doesn't have all these tools. So there's a couple things. All right, so I have a current client, and it's very similar. She's working on herself, and her husband isn't at that level yet, right?
Yeah.
She started working on herself, and she's like, well, I want him to work on himself. What we're doing is working on ourselves. Of course, you want the best for the people you love and care about, 100%, obviously. But our focus is ourselves. And we also have to, so there's two things. One, our focus on ourselves, and two, we have to have an understanding. Who we were 6 months ago before we started building our habits was that person who didn't want to create habits, who didn't want more things, who didn't know. And sometimes when we get to that next level, to that next strength, that next confidence, we go, oh, well, I feel bad. I want them there. Well, did you like when someone pitied you? No, we didn't want pity. We want understanding. So how can I give that person understanding? Right? So it's changing your perception on them. So it doesn't have to be, oh, just go away, you're not a healthy person. It's, oh, well, I've been there, and I understand. If you want support, I'm here. But that's kind of where those healthy boundaries come from. Am I letting them keep me down in the sense of let's go out drinking again. Let's go do this. Oh, don't go to your business event. Just come hang out. Come watch football, right? that's where my healthy boundaries and confidence come in, where it's, I'm still going to choose the next thing that's best for me, right? That's going to keep me at this level that I'm at or get me to that next one. When it comes to letting go people, because that's fine, you got to figure out where, all right, so business associates, there's always a networking meeting. There's always some type of luncheon. There's always something.
Oh,
So there's something every day, right? So it's okay if you don't go to all of them. I'm just letting you guys know. And you now don't talk to Mark anymore. You and Mark were first down here. You guys were besties, and now you felt yourself grow, confident, da da da. Now Mark's at this event, and now it's, hey, what's up, Mark? Hope all's well. And I keep moving. I don't have to dodge bullets. I'm like, oh my God, here he is. You can still be cordial, right? You can still be friends.
yeah.
How he feels, he's allowed to feel. He's allowed to be frustrated. He's allowed to miss you. He's allowed to want you there. He's also allowed to want his business to succeed at a different level. He's allowed that. If he wants that support, that is on him to ask for that help. Just like you asked for that help to get where you are. Right?
That is not easy for people to grasp onto because, and I know you and I both hear this word, people worry about it being selfish, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But just like for me to grow, I had to go get that help. Mark didn't get that help from me. And that's nothing against Mark. But when Mark wants to get to the next level, or even where he's at, this is the thing. I accept and care for who Mark is now. I'm not mad. I'm not jealous. I'm not anything about who he is now. And I think sometimes we do that, like, oh, well, he needs to step up. Why? Just accept him for who he is. If he's not hurting anybody, maybe himself, right? He might be like, because he has better potential, whatever the case may be, that's fine. But he's still living. He still has his family. He's still going. Like, it doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
Right? We have to, and that's where that taking care of ourselves comes in. It's not being selfish or I'm not being mean to him. I'm not now sitting over here with Susie going, oh, well, there's Mark. Okay, here we go. And that's the difference. If I was doing that, then we have to have a different conversation. Right? Because we, again, at all these meetings, we know there's negative people. They're going to talk negative, and I don't want to be part of that. That's where my next level and boundaries are, right? So they come in different waves.
So the hardest part is when it's a team member, perhaps who performs well on a numbers are generally met, but it feels like the growth has stopped. How can we... Is there a way to help that individual find a path to growth? Maybe resources to put in front of them, conversations to have, so that way maybe they don't get left behind in all of it.
Oh, yes. So it's that check-in part. If you see that they were rocket shooting, and now they're kind of just like plateauing, they're staying, they're not really doing too much, right? Hey, Mark. Last month, your numbers were this. The month for that, your numbers were that. I'm just doing a check-in. You're my main rock star. Is there something that you're missing? Is there support that you're not getting? Is there something you need to talk about? I'm giving that space, right? I'm having conversations. I'm not going, Mark, you're failing. It's, right. Mark, I'm seeing a difference. Is there something that you need support on? Is there something going on that I don't know about? Right? Because we don't know. So it's getting curious is super huge when it comes to anything, right? So whether it's you are feeling frustrated and Mark annoys you, or you are feeling frustrated with your wife or your partner, right? At that frustration, just get curious. Ask the questions. And think about, what do you need to know in this situation? Well, I want to know why his numbers have dropped. So making sure that's my main focus, because a lot of times we get defensive, we start to get argumentative, we start to say things we don't mean. So it's just getting curious. Stay curious is really, really big when it comes to understanding other people and even people that we might not vibe with.
How do we take a person who is in that moment of they're not doing well? And I think this is a really fun idea. And I've got a few clients who are starting to do more of this, which is provide resources to that person to grow. Do we introduce them to books, events, podcasts, hook them up with a coach? How can we best help people start that journey?
It's getting curious with them. If they're not a book reader, don't give them a book. But how do I know if they read books? How do I know if they even like podcasts? I have to get curious. Me just saying, here's resources, here, Charlie, here's a book, and you're going, I have never lifted a book in my life. I hate reading. You're not, but we know those people, right? If you went to my office, I mean, you can probably see there's a mess of books over here, and that's not even all of them, right? So you're like, she obviously needs books. She loves books.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm saying, I don't know, you know how to work my phone, I'm old fashioned, you have to have that conversation. If I just give you a resource, then that's just it's like, well, you don't even know me. And now how does that make that person feel? Right? So if I go, hey, Charlie, I saw this X, Y, and Z. When we last talked, you mentioned X, Y, and Z. But I want to give you resources to support you. Here's 3 options that I was thinking best for you. Do any of these align with you? Do you like any of these? Which ones do you want to try? Again, having that conversation. Now, if he's like, screw all these resources, I don't want any of this, I don't want to grow, then that's a different conversation. But if me giving you something, me giving you the water when you're sitting right in front of the well, right? So you have to give something that works for them too. So you're not also wasting your energy.
By the way, our collective apologies to everyone who's named Mark listening to this podcast.
Oh my goodness, wait, my brother's named Mark, so just by the way, that's the reason why I use names of people in my life. I know that's probably not good, but I know.
That's good. That's good.
Mark with a C, by the way. He uses...
Perfect. Well, you've now spilled the secret to everyone who ever listens to you speak ever. They go, it's weird that she said Ashley. That's my name, and that's a little close to home on what she's talking about.
Yeah, they know. They're well aware. Yeah.
Good. Perfect. Okay, so that continuing ability to self-develop. Someone who is starting to set boundaries, communicate more, setting some habits. As they continue to make these changes, what else can they expect to shift in their life in a positive direction?
Oh, well, first, you're going to be stressed because stress is a reaction to change. So just a heads up that when you start to do this, let's be real first, because positive change is definitely going to happen. But what's going to happen, and it's a real thing, you're going to grow, you're going to see these things, and then life's going to happen, and you're going to be like, oh my God, wait, and you're going to want to crumble back to your previous habits. Lean on yourself, have that trust. What habits have I created? What habits do I want? Remember, it's a full toolbox you have right now. You only have to grab one thing at a time. So I want to say that first because it is real. Every time we get to that next level, life happens. And it was like just a test. Whatever you believe in, it happens.
Oh, yeah.
It's a true thing. But in the positive way, it's so cool. I mean, it really is. It's so cool. All right, so I'll make it about me, Jess, myself. No one else in my life.
Go for it.
Just 3 years ago, when I started my business, and it's so cheesy, but we all talk about this. Like, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, you were so proud of yourself. 3 years ago, Jess, if I flash forward to where I am now and what I do every single day, would be absolutely mind blown. Absolutely mind blowing. And this is something I have to tell myself because even with my team, when I feel themselves get frustrated, I'll tell them, like, Jocelyn, real name, 3 years ago, didn't even know how to do half these tasks. Is now learning this and now conquering this. And how cool is it that I now have new tools and can just do something that 3 years ago it would have taken me 2 hours to do because I'm still YouTubing something and going, so I have to do what? What kind of dance? I don't know, right? We didn't know. I had no idea. But now it's just a different kind of confidence and response to show up. And it's just such a powerful mood in yourself. And because at the end of the day, you know how many people surround you, know how many people that love you, and know how much strength and support you're holding yourself at night. And having yourself there, push yourself up, be able to call your husband and ask for help. You can even call your friends and ask for help. That's something different. And it's just something that we all deserve.
Yeah, it reminds me of a course that I went through called the Corrections course, and the psychiatrist behind it. One of the things that he focused on is the difference between a child self and an adult self, and one of the phrases that he uses is, adults don't need, adults want, because adults take care of their needs and then have things that they want in the world. And when I hear you talk about those, like being able to go to other people, but go from a place with boundaries, confident communication. That's what I think of, is you can now start approaching the world because you are taking care of your needs. Now you get to go and search for what you want, and those two things don't get conflated.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, the needs and wants are completely different. And we get them confused sometimes. And so when I start to learn about myself, get the communication, those needs and wants, I get to understand the difference. And it's so cool. Because I get to take, we talked about, maybe Mark didn't go to the next level, but maybe Alexis did. Right? And she got to go up. And now that he's seen more and more people in his life go up, I get to help them come up with me. And that's so cool.
It is. It's amazing to be like a force for change in so many people's lives. And for everyone listening, look, this doesn't mean that you specifically have to coach everyone. It is oftentimes be a great example for others.
Period.
They need mentors. They need people who they can look up to and say, be curious to know what it would be like to be more like Jess. I wonder, maybe, and this for everyone who's listening who is thinking about having a mentor in their lives, just don't be afraid to ask. You'd be shocked at the willingness people have to give away their resources.
People want to help. People want to help. My business wouldn't be where it was if I didn't have mentors. Are you kidding me? If someone was like, oh, just show me, I'm going to look at that email. I'll see if that makes sense. And there's those little things, like my business would not be where it's at if I didn't have mentors. Absolutely not.
Absolutely. So before I ask you the final question of the show, if people are interested in learning more about what you do, who you are, etc., what's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, of course. So right at my website, it's going to have everything. It has my direct email, has my podcast, has my coaching, has my speaking, has everything. So journeytoyourself.net. Make sure it's .net. Journeytoyourself.net, again, has all my goods in there. Whatever you need, it's on there.
Perfect. Okay, so the last question, it's a little bit of a three-parter for you.
Oh, man. Okay.
It's, what are you reading, watching, and listening to these days?
Okay. Reading. I'm reading. Oh, my God. I just opened it. So now I'm going to butcher the name of it. The 5 dysfunctions of team building or management. Patrick
Lencioni.
Yes, him. Watching. I'm such a so I'm not really good at TV shows. I'm not good at Monday night. It's always this. So I watch the DVR. I don't know what you call it anymore. Of like the baking shows and cooking shows. Right now I'm watching the Halloween Baking Championship.
There you go. That's an honest answer, and I appreciate that. Look, my family recently watched at least one too many episodes of the show Wipeout on Netflix. So we all have a little bit of guilt in what we do. Yeah.
And listening to you said?
Yep.
So my other fun fact about Jess is I'm a true crime podcast person. So so when I meal prep for the week, I'm listening to some type of crime junkie episode for sure.
There we go. It is, ever since Serial completely broke the podcast world in 2014, true crime has been, you'd think that the wave was going to crest at some point, but it just keeps going up. It's astonishing.
It just keeps going up. And it for sure, No, it does. And I'm part of the problem, so I'll admit it,
A perfect note to close this out on. Jessica Harrington, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much. I had such a blast. Thank you.
Excellent. We'll see you all in the next episode of They Don't Teach This in Law School.